prepare to race onto the field. Everything is riding on this football game. So there's a special intensity, a special urgency. Here come the Volunteers. Wherever you listen throughout the world, it's football time in Tennessee.
Welcome to the Talkin' VAWLS Network. My name is Boogie Bentley. Just wanted to drop a video with some football content. Myself and the Indy Kid, we have been talking baseball all week long. So I wanted to drop a special video on this Sunday afternoon and kind of talk a little about football. We'll get into it and discuss it. But first, it is a busy week. It is a busy week for the Talkin' VAWLS Network. Just want to keep you guys up to date with everything that's going on. The Indy Kid is going to be dropping a preview tomorrow on Monday, talking about the SEC tournament. He's going to do a bracket breakdown, kind of get into some of the matchups and things. So tune in for that. Also, on the baseball note, Tennessee will play the winner of South Carolina and Alabama on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Myself and the Indy Kid are going to go live immediately following that baseball game. So make sure you don't miss that. And then finally, on Friday, the 28th, 7 p.m. Eastern time, we are going to be live streaming the 98 National Championship game here on air. We're going to have the video shared out so you guys can see it. Watch it along with us. It's just going to be a hangout watch party. Sure, we're going to talk about the game we're watching, but we're also going to talk about baseball. We're going to talk about JP's special chili recipe. Who knows what we're going to get into it, but it'll be a good time. Hope you guys will join us for that. And just a little preview, there is a huge announcement regarding the future of Talkin' VAWLS and the Talkin' VAWLS Network that we will make at the beginning of that stream. So don't be late, Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. All right, enough plugs, enough promotion, just a lot going on. Wanted to let you guys know before we kind of get into the video at hand. And that is this. 5 VAWLS selected to the Athlon Sports preseason all-SEC teams. Preseason list, not a big deal, but just something fun to talk about here. I mean, we're in the middle of May, not a lot going on. We are going to have some visits coming up in June, so that'll kind of get us moving into recruiting talk. But this, man, I think of Athlon Sports, it takes me back to the old NCAA days on the PlayStation, on the Xbox. I used to always get the Athlon Sports preview magazine, get home with NCAA, enter the roster names. That's a tangent, but let's look at the list here. It says a look at the 5 Tennessee Vol football players selected to the Athlon Sports preseason all-SEC teams. This is from Matthew Ray, SI.com. It says the offseason is entirely upon us, which means lists, preseason accolades, etc. are entirely upon us. Again, these don't always mean anything, but they are fun to look at, get excited about who to keep an eye on as we move into the 2021 season. But it says Athlon Sports recently released their preseason all-SEC teams, and 5 Tennessee Volunteers were selected across the 4 teams. Braylon Jones Jr., Cade Mays, Paxton Brooks, Jalen Hyatt, and Matthew Butler were selected as preseason all-SEC selections. Now, we're going to kind of go through it name by name here, but what do you guys think? I want you to hit that comment section. These are the 5 names that we have been given. What other names are out there? What other players on this team could potentially make the preseason all-SEC list? Because there is one that comes to mind. I'll get into it after we roll through the list here. But up first, Braylon Jones Jr. They say Jones Jr. was the lone first-team selection for the Vols as a kick returner. Entering his 6th season in college, Jones Jr. is the FBS active career leader in kickoff return yards, says he will only climb the all-time career list this season as he averaged over 23 yards per return during his career. 400 return yards this fall would push him into the top 30 of all time. When we saw Braylon Jones Jr. was coming to Tennessee, that's what we were looking for. We were looking for a guy to make an impact on special teams. We were looking for an Evan Berry type of player. I think we've got way more than that with Braylon Jones Jr. When you look at his receiving at Tennessee, last year he had 22 catches, 280 yards, and 3 touchdowns. But the problem when you look at Tennessee receiving yards, just catches, yardage, touchdowns, they didn't have anybody to get the ball to him. The same goes for Jalen Hyatt. Look at Josh Palmer. Look where Josh Palmer got drafted. Pretty good draft status. Didn't do a whole lot his senior year at Tennessee. But again, there was nobody to get him the ball. But when Braylon Jones Jr. announced that he was transferring to Tennessee, we go and we look at his return yardage that he had at USC. Averaged 24.5 one season, 23, 24.3. And then his lowest was once he came to Tennessee. Still not bad numbers. 18 returns, 398 yards, averaging 22.1. But when you look at this and they talk about his career yardage as a return, I think VAWLS Jones Jr. is going to be the top receiver for this football team. He is way more than just a kick returner. I hope we see some flash. I hope we see some sizzle in the return game, because I don't think we quite got it last season, not at least to what I was expecting to get from VAWLS Jones Jr. in the return game. Up next on the list here, we got Paxton Brooks. Oh, goodness. It's all punter you. Punter you. Put more punters in the NFL than anybody else. Says Brooks continued to work the special teams trend for Tennessee as he was selected as a second-team punter on the list. Brooks has averaged an impressive 42.9 yards per punt over his career, and he will be considered one of the top punters in the nation heading into 2021. Brooks was a Phil Steele All-SEC selection in 2020. Look, punters are important, but punters aren't fun to talk about. It's not the sexy position. It's not what gets my blood boiling as we get ready to head into fall and get ready for football season. I don't want to be talking about punters, but Paxton Brooks is a guy that is consistent. Again, it said there averaged 42.9 yards over his career. Cade Mays. Cade Mays joins Brooks on the second-team list. Mays is expected to be the leader of the Tennessee's offensive line in the fall. Started 25 games in his career. The most versatile lineman on Tennessee's roster and one of the most versatile linemen in the country. That's it. That is so huge. Cade Mays, we talked all spring about where he was playing. Is he going to play at tackle? Is he going to play at guard? Cade Mays can play anywhere you need him to play. And that's a huge thing when you're looking at depth for this offensive line. Move Cade Mays where you need him, plug and play. It says 2021 will be Mays' first opportunity to be the face of an offensive line, as he will look to prove why many believe he will be a top 50 selection in next year's draft. Yeah, Cade Mays is the leader of this offensive. This is his offensive line. It's going to be interesting to see when fall rolls around if he's going to be playing tackle or guard. Let's move on down to the next on the list. That's Matthew Butler. He was a third-team selection on the defensive line, will be a fixture on Tennessee's defensive line this fall. He led Tennessee's front unit in tackles in 2020 with 45, chose to return for a fifth season instead of pursuing the NFL draft. Says he's going to look to improve his stock as he learns from Rodney Garner. I think it only helps Matthew Butler the way that Josh Heupel has gone out and utilized the transfer portal, add some depth, move some bodies around. This Tennessee defense, because of the speed and the quickness of that offense, they have, the potential to get gassed. They need depth. They need help. So going out and adding big DeJoun Terry, going out and getting Caleb Tremblay, that only helps this defensive line, which in turn only helps Matthew Butler. Glad to have him back. We'll see what he does in this last hurrah for the Tennessee defensive line. Up last on the list, that's Jalen Hyatt. This is a guy who, look, he could be Tennessee's leading receiver. We talked about, getting the freshman on the field last year. Jalen Hyatt showed flash. Jalen Hyatt showed athletic ability. Says he's the lone underclassman on the list. The speedster was selected as a fourth-team wide receiver. He has the potential to be way more than that. Way more than that. Says he comes off of a freshman season where he flashed his ability to work all levels of the field as a receiver. Caught 20 passes for 276 yards and 2 touchdowns last season, and should only see his production increase with Josh Heupel's offense. Again, go ahead and lump VAWLS Jones Jr. and Jalen Hyatt into one little category here, because their numbers are only going to go up. Number one, Josh Heupel's offense. VAWLS Jones Jr. said it himself back in the spring during a press conference. What wide receiver would not want to play in this offense? We're already seeing the way they stretch the field, the way they take shots. This offense is going to be fun for these wide receivers, and I think VAWLS Jones Jr. and Jalen Hyatt are going to lead the way. But it also comes down to quarterback. Who's going to step up? Harrison Bailey, Joe Milton, Hendon Hooker. I don't know who the quarterback is going to be, but these receivers can only go as far as their quarterback will take them. They got to have somebody to deliver them the football. So that's the list. That's your 5 Athlon Sports preseason all SEC team members: Braylon Jones Jr., Cade Mays, Paxton Brooks, Jalen Hyatt, and Matthew Butler. Like I said, leave me a comment. Who do you think is missing from this list? Because I think a guy that we are going to see show up this fall. Some people think I'm crazy. I am not worried. I know Eric Gray was a special talent. I am not worried about the running back position. And it starts with Jabari Small. I think he is going to turn a lot of heads in SEC play this season. I am excited to see this kid run the football. When we talk about Josh Heupel, we get fired up and excited about quarterback play, about stretching the field, taking shots, all that stuff. But he also likes to run the football, and I think Jabari Small has the potential to make an impact this fall. So leave me a comment. Let me know, who do you think was left off the list that you could see maybe breaking out this season or stepping up, rising to the occasion? I would love to hear from you guys on that. If you have not done so yet, please smash that thumbs up on the way out the door. And also, you can support the channel by doing this. Go to bonfire.com/store/TalkinVols. You can pick up the official merchandise of the Talkin' Vols Network, including the Egghead 2.0 shirts, again, available in multiple sizes and styles. So check that out, different color schemes. And then also we got the Talkin' Vols hoop shirts, and we've got the State Pride logo, the old school logo merchandise. Check it out. The link to all of that is in the description below. Again, a busy week, guys. Just a busy week. Look forward to interacting, hanging out with you guys. Don't miss myself and the Indie Kid going live for the post-game show for baseball. Don't miss the Indie Kids baseball tournament preview dropping tomorrow. And then finally, the national championship stream on Friday, 7 p.m. Should be a good time. So I hope you guys will tune in and join us for all of that. But that's going to wrap it up for this video. This is the Talkin' Vols Network. My name is Boogie Bentley. Go Big Orange.
The